Hello and welcome. Now for this lesson we're going to look at the article "Put an age limit on screens," since this is a very good example of an argumentative text. And we're going to focus mainly on the structure of this text and what it does that is so good. So before we begin, you should have read the text on your own. If you have the textbook, Pick and Mix 1, you'll find it on page 70. And if you're a student of mine, you can also find it on Google Classroom in PDF format. So if you haven't read the text yet, then go and do so and look up any words that you might not understand. So make sure you're familiar with the text and then come back to the video. So you might already be familiar with how a well-structured essay consists of an introduction, a body, and a summary and conclusion. It says right here. A word that you need to know as well is the word paragraph, which in English means a piece of text, so that when you press enter on your keyboard and start a new line, you start a new paragraph. The Swedish word for this would be stycke. That's paragraph in English. And the first paragraph of an essay is the introduction, and this piece should introduce the reader to the topic and let us know what we're going to be reading about. So let's have a look at the first paragraph of this text. Some babies learn to scroll through the feed of through a feed before they learn to walk. Some toddlers scream and cry if you take the tablet away. Many school children spend up to 8 hours per day on their phones, computers, and TVs. More and more studies show that excessive use of digital media can have a negative effect on children's development. It affects the way neurons communicate in the brain, and it takes time away from other activities that are actually good for children's development, like playing with friends outdoors. But we do not really need scientists to tell us that, do we? We already know that children would be better off without excessive time on the screens, but so far we have done nothing to prevent it. However, if we continue to ignore these facts, we will continue to see rising levels of poor school results, physical problems, and mental illness amongst younger people. The time has come to to stop the negative impact of digitalization on children's development and introduce an age limit on all screens. So, here's what we can expect then from the rest of the paper. What does this introduction mention? Social media, digital media can have a negative effect on children's development. It affects the way neurons communicate in the brain. It takes away time from other activities that are good for children's development. If we continue to ignore these facts, we will continue to see rising levels of poor school results, physical problems, and mental illness amongst young people. These are the things that are mentioned here in the introduction that are bad with overuse of screens. So we can expect the rest of the paper to develop each of these points more deeply. And here's also a very good way to end an introduction. The last sentence of the introduction should clearly state your standpoint. The time has come to stop the negative impact of digitalization. Introduce an age limit on all screens. If it wasn't clear already, now it's very clear what standpoint this author has. So now we have an idea of what we can expect from the rest of the paper, so let's see if it delivers. Here's the first paragraph then, after the introduction. Let us begin by looking at how the use of screens affects school results. Okay, so already we're linking back to the introduction, school results, that was mentioned there. Also, this first sentence, it's called a topic sentence. It's one sentence that clearly communicates the topic of this paragraph. So this one sentence tells us that now we're going to be reading about how screen use affects school results. So let's read it. There are many claims that digital tools and educational apps make learning easier and more fun. However, research shows that schools where pupils use computers a lot perform worse than schools with limited use of computers. Why is that, you may wonder? Well, I myself am a student at college, and even I have to struggle with the temptations of the screen. From where I sit, I can easily see what my classmates are doing on their computers, and let me tell you, it is not algebra. What it all boils down to is that most apps and programs these days are designed in a way that makes you want to continue using them, In games, you just want that next reward. In video feeds, you just want to watch that next clip recommended just for you. In social apps, you just want to scroll a little bit more on a never-ending page. By banning the use of screens in primary education, results would improve for all children, not least for those with learning difficulties. So yeah, this paragraph is about how digital screens provide a lot of distraction from schoolwork. And it's written in such a way that you're supposed to relate to it. And yeah, how many of us have not been in this position where you just want to watch that next video? You just want to get to that next level in our game. So yeah, the reader understands what the writer means here. So next paragraph. Another reason why there should be an age limit on screens is the fact that it takes up time from other activities. So again, clear topic sentence here tells us what this paragraph is going to be about and links back to the introduction. Takes time from other activities. There was something mentioned there. Let's see what they mean by that. Time and time again, we read reports about increasing obesity among children, and it is true that a lot of children today suffer from health problems due to lack of physical activity. Yeah, health problems, that was also mentioned in the introduction. Apart from obesity, which means a bigger risk of heart problems and diabetes, lack of exercise can lead to brittle bones. But screen-dependent children do not only miss out on hours of physical exercise, they also miss out on practicing real social interaction, which can make them feel awkward in real social situations. Furthermore, because of the abundance of entertainment available on digital devices, today's children do not know how to handle boredom. As a result, they do not know what to do if their devices are taken away. Instead of using their low levels of imagination to come up with a fun game, they get frustrated and destructive. For older children and teenagers, one of the most important activities that is influenced by screen use is sleep. The temptation to continue watching and scrolling becomes stronger than the need for sleep, at least in the short run. In the long run, sleep deprivation can become a serious health problem. So yeah, basically, yes, delivers what was promised in the introduction, dives deeper into health problems that were mentioned and what they mean by that. Next, the final point in my argumentation is the fact that social media can have a very negative effect on young people's self-image, self-esteem, and general mental health. Again, clear topic sentence. And also the fact that it says the final point tells us that now we're nearing the end here. And it links back to the introduction. Mental health is something that was also mentioned there. The use of social apps has become more common among younger children, and many of them spend hours presenting photos and videos of themselves and their seemingly fun and exciting lives. When comparing themselves to others who seem to have lives that are a lot more interesting and fun and glamorous, they feel ugly, boring, and worthless. Last night, I had to listen to my little sister crying because she had not got more than 25 likes on a photo of her showing off her latest outfit. Not only had she just got 25 likes, she had only got 3 comments. One of them a simple "gorgeous as always" from her best friend, and another one a slightly sarcastic remark questioning the trendiness of the outfit. Bullying might have decreased in schools, but it certainly has not decreased online. By putting an age limit on screens, children will be protected from all the shallow nastiness of social media and instead get to build their identity on real social interaction. So this is a very personal story, probably quite a relatable one as well. We've probably all seen or heard about this happening, young people stressing over not being popular enough on social media. Some of us might even have experienced it firsthand. So again, it's something that the reader can relate to, and also it's again repeating the statement, put an age limit on screens. So all the time it's very clear what we're reading about. What comes next then? Some people might object to my statements above. They might say that screens provide fantastic learning opportunities, that they make every part of life a lot easier, that they help lonely people connect, and that they make us not only more knowledgeable but also better at critical thinking. To a certain degree, this might be true, but the fact is that we do not yet know anything about the long-term consequences of digitalization, and is it really fair to use the children as guinea pigs? So, what purpose does this serve? What does this do exactly? This is something that's very common in an argumentative text. The writer presents a number of counter-arguments, arguments against their own viewpoint, and explains why they think they are wrong. So this is something that strengthens your own argument. You show that you're aware of the opposing viewpoint and you have something to say in response to it. So without this, someone might read this and disagree with it and think, well, what about this and this and this? But by including this, the writer says, yes, I'm aware that this is something that some people think, and here's what I have to say about it. So it makes their own argument even stronger. Lastly then, to conclude, right, so we're now at the conclusion, summary conclusion. Now this last bit, it should only summarize what has already been said, it shouldn't add anything new, and it should repeat the main statement that the paper is built around. To conclude, it is clear that the use of digital devices has a negative impact on children and their development. Firstly, it makes them perform badly in school. Secondly, it uses up time that could be spent doing other things like physical exercise and sleeping. Thirdly, comparing themselves to unrealistic ideals on social media ruins their self-esteem and general mental health. So I'm asking everyone responsible for the digitalization of society to stop sticking their heads in the sand and start taking responsibility. For the sake of the children and future generations, it is time to put an age limit on screens. And yes, that's exactly what it should be doing, summarizing what has been said and then repeats the statement. So let's see how this is a very well-structured paper. Like we said, the introduction, it tells us clearly what we can expect from the rest of the paper, and then it develops it delivers on its promise and develops each of these points mentioned here. Each paragraph starts with a very clear topic sentence that tells us what this particular paragraph is going to be about, and that paragraph is only about that one thing. And there's one paragraph dedicated to counter-arguments, which an argumentative paper should have. And then there's a summary and conclusion. I once had an English teacher who said that a paper like this should have the following structure. Introduction, tell the reader what you're going to tell them. Main body, tell them in greater detail. Summary conclusion, tell them what you just told them. So basically, tell them what you're going to tell them what you just told them. And yes, it's going to be quite repetitive, and it should be. And of course, the main body should consist of several paragraphs. Introduction is one paragraph, and summary conclusion is one paragraph. So something else that this paper does very well in terms of structure is the way that it uses linking words and phrases. Linking words and phrases are words and phrases that move the text forward, such as firstly, secondly, on the other hand. One could also say however, furthermore, to conclude, and so on. And we see this in the beginning of most paragraphs. Let us begin by, looking at, so on. Another reason moves it along. There's a furthermore here, means and we're doing more of this. The final point, and so on. And in the conclusion, they also have firstly, secondly, thirdly, summarizing the 3 paragraphs of the main body in one sentence each. So it does that very well. There is one thing that is not in this paper which I'm a bit disappointed in, and that is sources. Where does the information come from? Because the writer makes it very clear what comes from their own experience and opinion and what are facts. Like, I myself am a student at college, so this is personal experience, makes it very clear. But right above that it says, research shows that schools where pupils use computers and so on. Well, this research, I'd like to see it, please. Where is it? Where is this research coming from? You're not presenting a source anywhere. How am I supposed to believe that you didn't just make this up if you don't tell me where you got your information from? And further down we got, for example, time and time again we read reports about increasing obesity among children. Do we? Well, maybe you do, but you can't expect everyone who reads this paper to do. So please present a source. There are more places in the text where I think, well, you should really present a source here. Tell us where you get this information from. Because you can't just expect everyone to know certain things or everyone to agree with certain things if you don't back it up with actual facts and actual reports. So when you write your own argumentative paper, whatever topic you choose, I will expect you to present your sources by linking them at the end. So thank you for watching, and check out part 2 if you want a summary of what we just talked about here.